Welcome to the Standard H podcast, conversations exploring the lives of entrepreneurs and those instrumental in growing companies. This podcast serves as a communal supplement to Standard H, my automotive-inspired line of apparel and accessories. Though popular among car and watch collectors, the elevated range of basics made in Los Angeles are certainly fit for many other discerning individuals. I invite you to visit standard-h.com to explore the latest releases, while the Substack exists for further deep dives behind the brand. Thank you so much for listening and for your support. Now let's get to the show. VJ Geronimo is a previous podcast guest on this show, and as you may know, Oris and Standard H have partnered in several ways throughout the years. We've co-hosted an event for Red Bar Raleigh, we both have participated in the holiday event at Topper Jewelers, and both companies are huge fans of baseball. Though Standard H can't afford a billboard in Yankee Stadium, it's something that would be a bit of a dream, and thus I get to somewhat live vicariously through VJ and his team's efforts. What I love about Oris is their dedicated nature of being inclusive, their ethical approach to business, and certainly their assortment offering true value. VJ and I start the conversation discussing family and how the father-daughter dynamics change over time, and then we move on to Watches and Wonders, the Oris booth, and their approach to the show. Then VJ walks us through the new releases and the history of a very special watch, the Star Edition. All of this and more with my very good friend and someone I hold in the highest regard, VJ Geronimo. I'm your host, Wesley Smith, and you're listening to the Standard H podcast.
How are you, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah,
Are you well
good.
rested?
I am all right. Yeah, I had a nice weekend. I got
Nice.
to see my daughter, so that was good. I was up there
Awesome.
in Boston, and yeah. How about you?
Good. Actually, let's start on daughters, since we both have them.
Okay.
I
Are you re
wasn't going to, but since you
are,
brought her up, does the feeling of missing them dissipate over time? I imagine it lessens, but for different reasons, maybe. I don't know.
yeah, and I think, I'm kind of uh, yes, you miss them, of course, and I'm a bad example because I like she doesn't live with me, so like I'm used to not having her around every day and not,
Oh,
not
that's a really
being.
good point. Yeah.
So it's like for me, it's like relatively it's just the norm of it that I don't see her every day. Whereas
Oh,
she's in the house with you. Yeah, I mean, I
yeah.
could see how it would be very, yeah, very
Yeah.
different.
I was gone for the better part of 12 days. I think it was either 11 or 12. I can't remember. And by day 8, I was
Yeah,
like, I want to go home.
I
Like,
need
I
to see her.
miss
Yeah,
my daughter. Like, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
of
And
course.
but yeah, I didn't even, yeah, that's a completely valid point that I
Yeah,
just didn't even think about, the fact that she doesn't live with
no,
you. So,
and I think when they're that young, and I
yeah.
think they're definitely you're their world, like you're their
Yeah.
world, and you'll be their world for like, I don't know, 11 years or so. And then and then it gets to be a little bit, then it comes a little bit, and then
Reality check.
yeah, reality check, and you look back on it and you're like, wow, I should have, maybe I should have spent a little more time, or I should have done this when I should have, because now
Mm,
it's like, not that they don't want to be with you, but there's other things going on, and there's
yeah.
friends, and there's activities, and that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, that's
you know,
true. God,
yeah.
I can't. I, man, I
Yeah.
do not look forward to those days.
Yeah. Enjoy the Saturday nights that you have where they want to sit with you and watch a movie, and you want to be together and that kind of stuff.
Well, the
You
other
know?
thing that hit me like a ton of bricks is like ever since we've had her, I've become a complete sap. Like I've like never cry, and like now it's like an emotional commercial will make me tear up.
I
It's
understand.
it's the
Yeah.
weakest thing I've ever felt.
But it's good. It's good. It's good emotion, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like you have like this, like, I don't know, you have this protectiveness about you that
Mm,
maybe you didn't have before. Not that you didn't have it before, but you have it's like a protective responsibility that you feel, and
yeah.
you have to like just take care of it and do it.
I don't know. I don't know why. I think this is a me problem, but like I just go to the darkest place. It's not even a protection thing.
Yeah.
What if I lose her? kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
No, no, yeah. No, exactly.
it's
But
much darker, VJ. Like it's
yeah, I get it, Wes. It's like, yeah, because there's no like, there's no handbook. There's no like, oh,
yeah.
this is what I need to do or how I need to do it or, and that's yeah, that's basically, you know. So
Yeah.
it's
Oh my God. That's so funny. Well,
but
listen, what
you got to
watches and
enjoy it.
wonders.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was unbelievable. My first time, as you know, going to Watches and Wonders.
Yeah.
My goodness, like it dwarf. Like I've jokingly said, it like makes Rodeo Drive look chintzy. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like every booth is 4x the size of like a flagship boutique for most brands, if not all.
Very much.
And
Very much.
it's wild. Like
Yeah.
it because of that. I mean, all right, now that I bring this up, because I haven't even thought about it this way until just the second. Why are the booths so big? Is it just because of the volume of people attending, I guess?
I mean, I think eh, I'd say no. I mean, I would say, and I think to know like the historical, I mean, I'm not obviously I've been around a little bit of time, but like I have a Basel, I have the Basel Fair
Yeah.
moment. I don't, were you ever in Basel? Have you ever
No,
seen
never
Basel?
went
No.
to Basel, never went to SIHH.
So like SIHH is like, like if you look at the Rolex booth, for example, like
Yeah.
you saw that obviously huge,
Hmm.
like that was the Rolex booth in Basel. Like it was the same, it was that same build out, that structure. Um, a lot of places had similar, like in Basel, it was just basically an open space
Hmm.
that you would build out and like kind of make your own. And then you would basically have the option of how high you wanted it to be, how much you wanted it to be.
Hmm.
Whereas SAHH or Geneva here, I think it's a little bit of within the confines of sort of those, not they're not ballrooms, but they have like those like a similar look and feel in the front of them in the sense of like an opening, like so I
Right.
think there's a little bit of like they're almost tempered down, if that makes sense.
Yep. Yep.
Like when I used to think about, like say like the Tag Heuer booth at like in Basel, like the Tag Heuer booth was 3 stories tall, just like the Rolex booth. We had a 3-story, 3-story booth kind of thing. So,
Really.
um, yeah. So, I mean, I think to answer about like, is it about the amount of people? I mean, a little bit, yes, but a little bit also just like, people just showing who they are or like their wherewithal, right?
Just like visual impact.
But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I
It's pretty
remember
impressive.
And I remember going to Basel and being like, who are these brands? I've never heard of them. And they're these huge things. And it's like they were just, maybe they were popular in Asia or they were popular in some other market. You never heard of them. Like I remember like Century. Like I'm like, who are these people?
Oh
But like,
wow.
yeah, it was just it's such a thing. And then there's obviously, I'm sure, some ego involved in terms of
Yeah.
having the biggest, biggest, best booth kind of thing. So,
Yeah, you also kind of think too, like, I mean, notwithstanding Rolex, because their ad budget is quite
right,
robust, to
right.
say the least. But I would imagine most people are spending the vast majority of kind of their marketing budget on something like this. Like if you look at I don't know, like some of the independent, like Arm and Strom,
Yeah,
right? Like they're not
yeah,
in magazines left and right, you know. They're not sponsoring the tennis tour or
yeah,
F1 or you know what I
yep,
mean?
yeah.
Or even Oris. Like I
Yeah.
mean, you guys
No,
I
it's
mean you guys
yeah.
do advertise clearly, but
Yeah, it's a large expense and there's a lot that goes into it that a lot of people don't even realize in terms of just not just the boost, but
mhm.
you're hosting people and you're doing stuff and part of the whole setup of the whole thing. So it's yeah, it's not an inexpensive endeavor and I think but I think at some point it's necessary
Mhm.
in terms of just from a even just from a perception perspective, like who you are and if you're a brand in this industry, you need to be in those places kind of thing. So
Is that top of mind at all within, say, Oris or even other watch brands to your knowledge, as far as like what the spend will be on something like a booth? Like, is that like a, okay, well, we gotta make sure we allocate
yeah,
5 million bucks to this
yeah,
booth. and
Yeah.
then spend throughout the year accordingly.
Yep, exactly. No,
Okay.
it's certainly it is.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, and it's just very much, it's yeah, it's an expense you have to make, and it's an expense you have to kind of account for and make sure it does take that. And we've always been, is it worth it? Do we need to do this? But yeah, I think we need to do it. So that's just my feeling.
How, I mean, I know there's obviously like the Swiss component of Oris, and then there's like the North American component, clearly. But like,
Yeah.
do you have much conversation about what the
Oh yeah.
booth will look like or how it will
Um,
be designed or how it differs from last year, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, our booth was designed to be like I'm sure it's like meant to be a piazza. It's meant to be opening and welcoming. A lot of booths, maybe they stop you at the door. Do you have an appointment? You can't come into it. Whereas
Hmm.
ours was much more designed to be that. And even in Basel, our booth was open like that and ready for that. So we designed that. But yes, it is a conversation about like the Swiss design, just from a corporate marketing perspective, they design the booth and what the messaging is and that kind of thing. But the
Hmm.
layout is, yeah, it is something that comes, but is discussed as to what we need and how it's being done. But yeah, so
Yeah.
um, our booth, if you look, have you ever been to the Monkey Bar in New York City?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the inspiration for a lot of if you notice the tables on the outside, the way that the booths are and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, that wasn't like on the,
Yeah.
that wasn't on my
Yeah.
mind. But now that you mention it, that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that
Monkey
was,
Bar is great. Yeah.
yeah.
What a
So that was
great room.
part of that.
Um,
Exactly.
well, this might sort of dovetail to your previous point about like, just like inclusion, I guess we could label that, right? Whereas like
Yeah.
Bulgari would not let me pass even the velvet rope, let alone the door, because
Okay.
I didn't
Okay.
have an
An
appointment.
appointment. Yeah.
Um, and so I guess my question was really, are there objectives that aren't necessarily obvious at a fair like this? I mean, obviously to sell watches is an objective, but maybe inclusion may be one of these that's maybe subconscious and or not obvious.
Yeah. And I think when we first went to Geneva, like the first time we went, like we were very torn about how to present ourselves because
Hmm.
how do you keep your identity as a brand that's again approachable and all these
Hmm.
things, and then you walk into that environment of this is so like if just more exclusive or exclude, basically keeping people out of places. And
Yeah.
it's funny, the first year that we did it, like we were the only ones with an open booth, like we were the only ones that had that concept.
Yeah.
And now there's a lot more people that have more open booths like that, but in the past 5 years or so. But yeah, it certainly was a consideration. Certainly, like an objective to your point, like what are the objectives? I mean, obviously, yes, to do that. It's great also that they're welcoming consumers. So the consumer days are really cool to see and the excitement
Hmm.
about it. So we wanted to have something that both, accomplished all those things, was able
Yeah.
to, yes.
Well,
So
as far as attendance goes, I kept hearing about how it wasn't as well attended. Now, granted, I was there on press days, so
yeah.
maybe for the consumer days, was that on par with those sentiments, or did it seem bigger?
Yeah,
Or
I was there on Saturday, which was one of the first consumer day.
yeah,
I wasn't there the other two, but it seemed like it was definitely it definitely was on par. There's a lot of people, a lot of lines in different places to see things and get to
okay,
things.
good.
So yeah, it
Yeah,
was good. I think from a general perspective, just with all the stuff that was going on, in the Middle
Middle
East and
East,
in
yeah,
other places in Asia, I think that maybe there was less attendance from a perspective of that sense. But yeah.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's funny because I call it giving me the Heisman,
yep.
like the brands that are just like literally keeping me
Yep.
outside of the booth, which was funny.
Are you
Because
gonna
you'd think if you are press or if you're there on a day like that, as opposed to like a consumer day, and maybe I've got it twisted, right? Maybe the consumer day, everybody can go in everywhere, and maybe not. I don't know, but
yep.
because I wasn't there. But you would imagine it would be the opposite. Whereas if you're press, you should be welcome in everywhere.
Right.
even if you do or don't have an appointment, obviously understand the value of having an appointment as well. I'm not trying to, this isn't an entitlement point I'm making. It's more of like
No,
a, you're here on a different day for a different reason, right? So,
right.
that was kind of interesting. Whereas, like, I heard Patek Philippe was kind of the same way, where if you didn't have an appointment, you couldn't go in there.
Yeah.
Well, VJ, I don't know what I did. I walked right in and no one said anything to me.
Oh, that's
So,
good.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Now, granted, I couldn't get hands on with anything,
Yeah.
but I was like in the booth at least.
But I think
Um,
like even with some brands, like even in press appointments, like some people do it like a one-on-one situation where you talk and maybe you meet with someone like, in our case, like Josh, meeting with Josh,
right.
or some brands, it's like they put, everybody in one room and they have
Hmm.
one presentation and do that. So I think it just depends on the brand and how,
Yeah.
how they want to do it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I experienced both of those, and they were valuable for different reasons, right?
yeah,
Like with my time with Josh, I got sort of that one-on-one attention to talk about the watches, right? Which I would like for you to touch on, which is the
sure.
main point of bringing you on the show, to talk about some of these novelties, because unfortunately I was unable to record my conversation with Josh, but it's all good. Whereas like the group presentations are great because you're hearing it sort of from the horse's mouth, so to speak, depending on the brand.
Yep,
Um,
yep,
but you get less time with the watches, right?
yes,
So, because you're passing them around. So, again, there's positives and negatives to both, but overall, really cool experience because it was so different in every booth. Like every
yeah.
brand does it different.
And it's such a nice, like, it's just a nice gathering of the industry, right? It's just a
Totally
nice to
agree.
be there and everybody's like in one place and well,
Hmm.
not everybody's there, but like for the most part, it's like this is what's happening. And in
Yeah.
the watch world, like this is the week that everybody's like, all right, I gotta be there. And if you're not there, it's like, why am I not there kind of thing. And so
Yeah.
really
Yeah, there's
glad.
that FOMO thing. But
Yeah.
one thing I will say, and maybe this is a byproduct of being there on the first 2 days, even amongst the other attendees and the press or whatever, energy was high, right? Like not
Yep.
everybody was tired yet. Everybody
Right.
still had a voice left,
Right.
things of that nature. And honestly, Tom, I would say conversations were pretty much dominated by positivity. It wasn't so much, can you believe XYZ has done this, or
Yep.
why haven't we seen ABC? It was
Yep.
all about, oh, did you get an opportunity to see the
Yep.
Star Watch or the whatever,
Right.
And it's like it was really kind of wrought with positivity, I thought, which
Yeah.
was nice.
I thought so too. I thought so too.
Yeah.
There's just this level of excitement, of enthusiasm, for
Yep.
lack of a
Yeah.
better word, right?
Yes.
Just to like to get there and see everything and do it.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. No, no, for sure. Outside of Pal Expo, what's your favorite part of that week?
Just seeing like people I don't normally get to see within kind of the
Mm,
Oris world, right? So
right.
like we get to see our international counterparts and when you're I've been, here 16 years, so you've gotten to know everybody pretty well. And it's
Yeah.
it's always nice just hanging out and being able to do that because
Yeah.
it's just time well spent, that it's just your friends, right? You
Yeah.
get to see them. So a lot of late nights, but
Yeah.
that's what it is. So
Do you have a favorite restaurant in Geneva?
we like, yeah, the unofficial official Oris restaurant is Cafe de Paris. So
Okay.
it's like the steak frites place right on the main street there. But we spend a lot of time there over time and it's delicious. And yeah, it's just a good vibe and it's like just very simple but it's like, yeah, it's always a fun atmosphere. So
Oh, that's amazing.
how about yourself?
I don't, gosh, I haven't been enough to really pick a favorite at this point. Because I
Yeah.
keep going to different places each time.
Hmm.
And I might have to come back to you on that one because I did eat steak frites one night with are you familiar with the guys at Subdial? They're
I'm not.
like a
No.
vintage pre-owned watch dealership in London. Guy
Okay.
named Tim Green, who's been on the show previously, is sort of the face of them, and he does all their
Yeah.
YouTube videos and watch drops and
Yeah.
Instagram reels and such. Great guy, hilarious guy, just a fun, knowledgeable person. And
Yeah.
and I went out to dinner with he has a podcast with Justin Hast, who
Okay.
you may know,
Yep.
Justin.
Yes, I do.
Um,
Yep.
anyway, it's called Four Married Men, and it's
Okay.
like two collector buddies of theirs, and then the two of them, and
Okay.
based in London.
Nice.
Great podcast, so shout out those guys. But yeah, it was I can't remember the name of the restaurant. And watch, it's probably like Cafe de Paris or somewhere like I have no idea. Where is that restaurant? I'm not looking at a map actually right now. Is that over
So
on the hotel side where you guys were staying in the hotels?
yeah, so like do you know
Okay, so it wasn't there then.
where the main train station is
Yes.
in
Yeah.
town?
It's right
So
right
it
in
was
there.
like it's like a block away from the main train station.
I see. Okay, so the
So
place I ate was in like the old town
the old
part.
town, so
Yeah,
across
yeah,
the
yeah.
bridge on the other
Yeah.
side. Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
where I had my Airbnb, which was great. I
Yeah.
mean, you can walk damn near everywhere in 20 minutes
Yeah.
or less,
Yeah.
It's great.
No, and it's a nice city. It's a fun city and it's yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it
just
just occurred to me this trip because this was my second time to Geneva, even though it was my first time to Watches and Wonders. Geneva feels almost like Florence, Italy in French,
okay.
like
Yeah.
in
I could
like a
see that.
size and walkability
I
and
could see
not
that.
necessarily architecture, but sort of, it's just like
Yeah.
old European architecture, some
Yeah.
cobblestones, and it was it and I mean that as the positive, like with the
Yep.
river or the water, like it's
Yeah.
just I don't
Yeah.
know, that's just kind of how I
I
left
could
it
see
this
that.
time. Yeah, it was
I
cool.
could see that.
I love Florence.
Yeah. Me too. And it's funny, like even this time I didn't even cross the river. Like I didn't stay
Not all. Wow.
I was in, I was in the Plexpo and then we came back
Yeah.
and then I was in the general vicinity of where I was. I didn't even cross the river at all. I didn't go to Old Town. I didn't do anything. I
Oh, wow.
just from the whole thing. And I stayed in the general vicinity of where I was. So yeah.
Have you ever been to Geneva without it being a business trip?
No, nope,
Oh, that's
nope.
funny.
So yeah,
Interesting.
that was the only time. I mean, the only time I've been there for Watches and Wonders. So,
Yeah. But
but
I mean, it
yeah,
is so small that you probably
yeah,
pretty much experience the whole thing anyway.
definitely. Yeah, you can go check it. Yeah, definitely see it, check it out. So,
Well, let's talk a little bit about the new models. I actually want to start with the Artelier collection.
sure.
Give us the sort of backstory there and what prompted this group of
Yeah.
watches.
So I think Artelier, like we've had Artelier in the collection for, a number of years, for many years.
Mhm.
It's been probably about 6 or 7 years since we've had a proper collection of dress pieces or like we used to call them culture. We used to break our product into four worlds: culture, motorsport, aviation, and diving, right? And in the recent years, diving and aviation have become basically the main focus of things. Not so much motorsport. And then culture, like classic pieces. We've had a few over the time, but not a lot. And we felt it was time again to
Yeah.
kind of bring that forth in a collection that was just a proper collection, not just a piece or two here or there, but like a proper Artelier collection. So, yeah, so we did. So we had the Artelier dates, which are really nice
Yeah.
in the colors that they are, and then yeah, and then the complications as well. So
Yeah. Is there any, I guess it's movement based or movement driven that drives the sizes of the watches, would you say?
yes, a little
Yeah.
bit. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because you've got,
And global preference, I'd say.
okay.
We always try to like it's not 100% on like this can fit in this case. It's just more of like it's a pretty broad range of sizes that could be made from it. It's just a matter of what size, we feel is going to work the best. So,
I've never asked this question to anybody. So uh, y- I guess I should also share with my audience. VJ and I consider VJ like mentor is probably not the right word, but family is part of it,
yes.
right? Like we have grown,
Yes.
we have, I will call it a seasonal conversation. About
Yes.
every 3 months, we'll get on the phone and we'll talk for like an hour. And these are like my favorite phone calls of the year. And I'm not saying that because you're sitting in front of me on a computer, but like genuinely, I get off the phone happier, usually better informed, feeling better about myself, and just overall, just like great.
I
And
agree. I
and
agree.
and and I love you for that. But my point back is this is why I also feel comfortable asking you questions I don't ask everybody. Uh, how often do brands look at other brands, not for inspiration, because that's not the right word, but for comparison's sake and for, oh, well, they're making that and it seems to be doing well. So maybe we could not get away with, but we could afford the opportunity of making a
Yeah,
43 millimeter watch with a power reserve on it. Or, sorry, it is
yeah.
power reserve, right?
I don't like in our case, I wouldn't say that it's really driven by other brands. Like, of course, you look at other, you may see some other things, but
Hmm.
like it's really about like consumer sentiment, I would say. It's more
Okay.
about like what do we see people? And it's always like we always have this debate because some markets like the watches to be smaller. So like the European markets and the Asian markets always like something that's a little smaller in size. And here
Mhm.
we're always like we need the watches to be bigger and we need them to be these sizes because so there's always like a discussion about those type of things and what
Mhm.
would make sense and what makes sense in our markets and things like that. So I think that's really what drives a lot of the decisions about product or like the decisions about what things are more than competitive reasons, I would say.
Right.
I
Okay.
I would say more, price points are more, I would say, in the on the radar when it comes to competition and things like that, as opposed to actually styling and things like that. Because for us, like, we have pointer dates, which are pretty rare in the
Hmm.
sense of, pretty unique in the market. So it's not like we're comparing it to some other brand's pointer date. It's just
Yeah.
more like, this is what we feel like it should be or how it should work. So
Yeah, I think competition's the correct word to use there. And one of the greatest pointer dates is like from Vacheron, and it's like Oris is not competing with Vacheron in that same
no,
sense, you know what I mean? But you
no,
can find that aesthetic, you know,
yeah,
and I think
yeah,
that's fair and true for that matter. Um, yeah, it is kind of interesting when you bring it because like I don't know, maybe it's just in my own collector circle, right? Us weathered watch people that like we've kind of held a lot and seen a lot and gravitate
yeah,
towards maybe some of the smaller pieces. And I think like at 35 or excuse me, 39.5 millimeter for some of the Artelier stuff
yeah.
is really nice. And
It's a good
again, we'll get
size.
to the Star Edition as well, which is even
And it
smaller.
and
Um,
even with the Artelier, like even at 39 and a half, it doesn't
mhm.
wear
Yeah.
it doesn't wear as big. And that's you're speaking of the complication at 39 and a half, and then the regular date models at 38. But even both of those
Right.
at their sizing, like they don't wear to the numbers. I think they wear bigger. In our case, I was pleasantly surprised to see them and
Yeah.
be like, wow, this is really it fits nicely and it's not too small. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree. I think with the 38 on bracelet, it's like that
yeah,
sweet spot, you know what I
yeah,
mean? And I think oftentimes, sort of to piggyback on your point, when you're looking at a watch design, sorry, I have it pulled up over here on my different screen, but when you're looking at these watch designs where it's like predominantly dial and not so much case,
yeah.
they tend to wear larger. But I feel
Yep.
like this is a really good balancing act that it's doing where
Thank you.
it's not like a
Yeah.
pancake, you know,
Yeah. And
on
the
your
way
wrist,
the
especially with the
crystal,
lighter color
yeah.
dials, you know.
And the way the crystal is, it makes it really, it pops it up a little bit. So
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Okay, so for those listening, the Star Edition is one that is fair to say a one-to-one
Yeah.
reissue, right?
Yep.
Of
Yep.
one from it was the 60s, right? The early 60s.
Yeah.
Uh
1966. So
okay. But
it was,
can you walk us through the legal stuff that was going on?
sure.
Because this is what sort of inspired that as well, right?
Right.
Originally.
So there's a story about the star and it wasn't just a reissue of something. So basically, um, Oris has been around since 1904. So we're 122 years old,
Mm,
this June. And um, in 1934, in the Swiss watch world, there was a law passed in Switzerland. So if you know much about Swiss kind of industry, there's a little bit of regulation involved in things. And in 1934 they passed a law that basically said, as a watch company, whatever technology you have at that time, you can't go beyond it, right? You're limited to the technology that you have. It was meant to be more of a stabilizing thing to stabilize the industry with the Great Depression, and all this stuff was meant to just keep things kind of relatively status quo, so there was not, so people could
Frivolous
survive.
spending on innovation.
Yeah, so right, so people can basically survive and just make sure that they were doing. But as time went on, this regulation became very anti-competitive, right? So in 1934, Oris was making pin lever escapement movements, so which were a little less accurate. They were obviously a little less expensive, but they were less accurate than the more advanced lever escapements. But because of this law, we weren't allowed to make lever escapements, right? So from 1934, a few decades later, it went on, it went on. We had innovated, pin lever escapements, but to the best that they could be, but still we weren't allowed to make anything beyond that. So in 1956, the company hired Dr. Rolf Portman. Um, he was an attorney. He was 26 years old.
Oh,
So think
wow.
of
Yeah, I'd forgotten
think
that.
of think of ourselves at 26 years old, right? So his dad was actually a sales manager at Oris. Um, so he was hired, and his main task at the time was to basically overturn that statute, or work to overturn that statute. So he lobbied the government, he lobbied various organizations and people and different things. Um, and this statute didn't just affect Oris, it affected, of course, all the other brands that were in the same situation. So whatever their situation was, like, this law was basically holding them back. Of course, the bigger brands that were making the more advanced things didn't necessarily want to change the law because they didn't want more competition. So it was kind of like very they refer to it as the Swiss watch cartel, right?
Right.
So they wanted to keep it the way that it was. Um, but anyway, so Dr. Portman was hired in 1956. It took almost 10 years, but he was able to overturn the statute, or basically get the Swiss government to the point where they wouldn't renew the statute, and
Wow.
it would basically be gone. So that's what happened. They started like an advertising campaign. There was a lot that went into that kind of lobbying effort,
Hmm.
but he was successful. And then in 1966, Oris launched its first lever escapement movement, which was the Oris Star.
Right.
So 60 years later, we're reintroducing it as it is, um, as a replica of that time period, in honor of obviously that moment in our history and the history of the watch world, but also Dr. Portman. He's 96 years old. He's still alive.
No
Um,
way.
he is still our honorary chairman. As I was saying, like, we each year before Watches and Wonders, we have an Oris conference, like where all international Oris people get together, and we have a couple of days of just being together. And he was actually there this year,
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
it was pretty cool, really
That's
cool.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and super humble guy, like super like, and later he went on to do other things with Oris, obviously led the company, was the general manager of the company, led the leverage buyout in 1982. So did a number of things with along with Ulrich Herzog, our executive chairman. But yeah, definitely he is a person that should be revered, and somebody that should be kind of remembered, and the story should be told. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. And honestly, the watch, I think it's 35 millimeters, if I'm not mistaken.
35 millimeters, plexi crystal.
Yeah.
Really, yeah, it's just a true replica piece. The star is actually one of those, if you go to like look for vintage Oris pieces or anything, the star is always one of those pieces that is really one of the most sought after pieces
Yeah.
that we've made over time. So
Well,
yeah,
this will either piss off people or make them happy that it's back, but like
yeah, yeah,
because of this sought after aspect. But I think
yeah,
having both would be amazing, right? Like if
yeah,
you're one of those people who were seeking these out and to have this new one, I think that'd be like a really cool thing to
Yeah,
own both as a collector. I think well, hopefully it'll raise the prices, frankly, of the vintage pieces, I would imagine. But
yeah,
you know, my brain hearing that story is also thinking like if you're in Switzerland, because I'm also thinking about the industry at large, because it's so many aspects of this historically have been cottage based, like cottage industry of like,
correct,
I make this part, you make that part, and collectively we do this. So
correct.
what was going on back then? And maybe this isn't answerable, but like if there's another brand within Switzerland making lever escapements, like why couldn't they use that because it's already made? Does that make sense? As opposed to being held down into this pin
Yeah,
lever or
I think it was that you couldn't use like at the time in the 60s, like I think a lot of the consolidation in the watch industry or a lot of the 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 manufacturing side of the watch industry
mhm,
changed a little bit later with the quartz crisis.
right.
So like, up until that time, Oris had, we had 5 factories. We were making our own movements. We were making a lot of our own things, right?
Mhm,
So at that time, yeah, there wasn't a lot of purchasing of things from other people. Like people were making their own stuff.
got it.
Then what happened was when the quartz crisis came in the late 70s, early 80s, um, basically a lot of people, including Oris, closed a lot of their manufacturing because it was not, it was duplicity in terms of, why should 5 people make movements and 3 people make hairspray? Like, so everybody basically came down and they consolidated manufacturing. So they ended up, if you want to buy movements, you buy them from ETA, and you want to buy um,
Okay.
different things, you buy them. So it became much more of that cottage industry at that moment where different people were making different things. But before that time, a lot of a lot of people were making their own stuff. So
Right.
I
Okay.
think
So that
that's
that sort of era came later due to the
yeah,
quartz crisis.
a
Okay.
little bit later.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's almost
Yeah.
kind of counterintuitive that it would
Yeah.
be cottage industry comes later
Yeah.
than
Then
before.
then that, yeah. But yeah.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Um, what w- what sort of motivated this release of the Star Edition? It was it because is it technically an anniversary then? Well, 60,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be. Yeah,
60 years
66. Yeah, okay.
60
Got it.
years down. So that was kind of the main thing. It had
Yeah,
always been something we'd also been talking about for a bit of time. I think with the vintage trend in watches has been happening for 10 years already, right? At least
right.
when we
So
think
10
about,
years ago this release may not have made sense.
yeah, and 10 years ago, like we did some things like we launched, Diver 65 and, a little bit before that. So like
Yeah,
in that period, like it was sort of on the vintage side of things was just starting.
right.
And then as the vintage trend continued, the star was always a requested piece that we always thought about bringing back, and then this seemed to be the most appropriate time
Yeah,
for it. So yeah,
yeah,
and then Dr. Portman is again, I mean, that's just a great. He's just a great person, and obviously being internal to Oris, like you had the the pleasure of knowing the person, or at least being around the person a little bit to kind of have the context of the whole story.
yeah,
Maybe to the outside world, it's a little bit maybe not so close, but to us, like as people, it's like it's really cool, and
yeah.
yeah,
No,
excited
that's
about it.
amazing.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's like with anything, like you that much time passes, and like you people don't know the stories, or people don't know the history, or like with anything, not just watches, obviously,
Yeah,
you think about, I don't know, you think about, let's say, World War II, and you think about that generation of people, and unless people are celebrating these things or knowing these stories or knowing the stuff, like it just gets lost over time, right? So
yeah,
we thought it important to tell that story
yeah.
and make
It's funny in my world being in t-shirts, like the history of the t-shirt, if you've never looked that up,
I
it's
never I can't say that I have.
it's
So
fascinating. I won't
yeah.
go into it because that's not what this podcast is about today, but it's it, it's not something you'd want to bring back necessarily to
Yeah.
re-release, but if for anybody listening, go to Wikipedia and read the history of the
History of
t-shirt.
t-shirt. All right.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
It's not quite the same in like the denim world, right? Like the denim
Okay.
is fairly
Yeah.
straightforward, but the t-shirt's history is kind of interesting. But I wanted to talk a little bit too because you guys are about to go to Wind Up, right? Isn't that this week
Correct.
in San
Correct.
Francisco? Which unfortunately this podcast will come out after the fact. But um you guys have done how many now? I mean, so many.
Yeah,
All of
all of
them.
them, actually. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
like all of them.
Yes.
Yeah. When you've done so many of these things, like what do you find to be similar and what do you find to be different?
I mean, I think, you know, you find that first, I will say, like, over time, they've definitely grown a lot, like,
Yeah.
over, in terms of venues, in terms of just participants, in terms of brands, in terms of the whole thing. So, like, it's a pleasure to see the evolution of the whole event kind of grow and that sort of thing. So I think,
Hmm.
the one thing you find consistent, or I'd always find consistent, is there's just a lot of enthusiastic people. Like, people come,
Yeah.
they're educated about watches, they know watches, they read, people come and say, "Oh, I want to see this watch." It's not like, "Have you heard about Oris and do you know this product?" It's like, "No, I want to see this particular piece," or like, so it's a very educated audience in that sense. Um, yeah,
You
and
mean
each one
across the board, no matter
across
what
the board,
city you're in?
yeah, across the board, I'd say it's an educated audience about watches and that sort of thing. And it's so interesting to see just how things, like, obviously it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday event. So like,
Hmm.
Friday's always the hardcore people that have, taken a day off of work to come
Yeah.
and do things. So that's always and you obviously you've experienced it yourself to see.
Yeah.
Um, but it's always an interesting and good things. Yeah, and I will say it's the differences are, different cities or have a different vibe to them, and
Hmm.
different people, and you see some of the same people every year, which you certainly do, and then you get new faces and things. So it's always interesting to see that, and different brands that may appear and be there over time.
Well, Watches and Wonders, obviously, you get this contingent of people who are wholesale clients, right? As
Yep.
opposed
Yep.
to, direct to consumer,
Consumer
end
clients. Yeah.
user client.
Yeah.
Based on the response of Watches and Wonders. Well, first of all, is everything available already that you're
Yes.
releasing?
So
It is.
everything we have released is out into the market. Things are being delivered. Some things are trickling in, some things are available, but yes, for the most part, everything will be out. A couple pieces will be maybe a month or so from now. You'll see them in the market, but
Okay, so
yeah.
that's interesting too, because like in my world, like if I were to go to a fashion trade show, right,
Yep.
which has booths like a tenth the size for those listening, it's like a cubicle compared to what Watches and Wonders is like. Uh, but like that's all trying to figure out what their production will be as well, because they get
Yes.
their wholesale customers. It's 6 months early, and part of that is due to the fact that they need that runway to produce these items
Yep.
to sell them, right? Whereas you guys are releasing things now.
Yeah.
Um, how do you gauge, and or is it more just like we really believe in this, so we're gonna produce X number of hundreds or thousands of pieces in this,
Yeah,
or
it's hard. I mean, it's hard to
that's
know
got to be
because
stressful.
the lead time in our world is very long. Like,
Yeah,
it's not a short lead time. It's hard to, you want to react as quick as you can, but still there's lead time in getting the stuff done and together. So, yeah, it's a lot of educated guesses. It's a
yeah,
lot of, kind of feedback, and then, you make some guesses, and then after the show, maybe kind of refine your planning, things like that, because,
yeah,
maybe this one seemed to be a lot more popular than the other one. And then, but then in the end of the day, it's the sell through that tells the story, not even the B2B side of it, right? So
right.
that's always interesting. But yeah,
So
it's
based on Watches and Wonders, if you were to rub your crystal ball for this weekend, what
yeah.
do you think's going to move the best?
I mean, I think you'll see, like, I think the star pieces will probably move the best.
Yeah.
in my opinion, just because it's a very um
It's a
it's a very
singular piece.
yeah, and it's a watch enthusiast piece, right?
Yeah.
It's for
Special.
that market, yeah, and
Hmm.
different things that we have. So yeah, we're just struggling to get all that we can in terms
I,
of stock
I
and
imagine
availability, right? So
because you're
yeah,
not the only market, right? There's Asia,
yeah,
there's Australia, there's,
exactly, exactly.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
That's God, that's
uh,
so wild. Just because I think of my scale and I think of your scale, and it's it couldn't be more different.
but you're a one man show, so like you're like or you're
I-
like that's I envy you a lot in the sense of like, and I envy
that's
you, and I at times I
the
don't envy
first I've
you
heard this.
because you're like you have this ability to affect everything that you do,
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
but then also you have you doing everything, so it's
Right,
like
right.
it's hard, it's a much harder gig, I think. So
Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword, and what I mean by that is one side does the cutting and the other one cuts me. You know what I mean? Like it's like the sword is sometimes straight and sometimes it's U-shaped and it's just coming
yes,
right back
coming
at
right
me.
at you,
Um,
coming right at you.
which is
Yeah.
really funny. Okay, I'm just curious. Again, another question that I'd never thought to ask you. What are the like sort of the collections that do the best in the cities, right? So like is there something more popular in San Francisco than say Chicago?
Not necessarily. I think
Okay.
it's more of the collections that do better with, say, the type of crowd, like the enthusiast crowd, right? So like, our pointer dates, for example, are always very popular with that crowd. The Diver 65s are always pretty popular with that crowd. And
Yeah.
not saying that the other collections aren't, but I'm saying if you,
Right.
had to kind of pin it down to things that did well in those environments, that's what I would say.
Historically, what is Artelier? How has that performed? More like a wholesale distributor type
Um,
of thing?
it's done pretty well, but again, it's been some time. And actually, like the Asian markets always do well with the more
Okay.
classic pieces. So
Right.
like they were always very strong in those type of models. So
Yeah.
like a his and hers type model or
Sure.
something that
Yeah.
was very, yeah, always very strong in that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What's the best performing Asian country? I mean, I guess China because it's the biggest, but
Yeah, China, Taiwan,
okay.
markets like that, Korea. So we have some good markets as
Okay.
well.
Cool.
So Japan, obviously. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah. The purchasing cycle is something I think that's also interesting in watches because of the price point, right? So if
yeah,
a customer visits you in San Francisco 2 years ago, they may
yep,
not buy their first Oris until this year, right?
correct, correct.
How do you how does a brand navigate that? You know, like are you is that top of mind or is it let's show them and just educate them the best way we can and hope they buy it or like what are some of the like questions people consistently come back with as they're marinating on these ideas? Are they doing brand comparisons or is it more just like a
Yeah,
saving their pennies kind of thing?
I think I think it's more the latter than the former. I think it's more of like, I hear a lot of, oh, I want to buy, I want to save up and buy that one, or,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it depends where people are on their journey, right? Like some people are
Yeah.
at the entry level side of it. Some people can afford anything and will just buy it on a, if they like it, will just buy it on a, an impulse kind of thing. It just depends on, I think, personally your situation
Yeah.
as you are. I mean, I think we have we have a good reputation in that group of people, so a lot of people um maybe aspire to an Oris in that situation, so it may
Hmm.
not be the first one they buy because of just the choices that are out there in terms of just the price points and things like that. But I think we get a lot of aspirational people in the wind up environment that do that. Whereas on the flip side, when you look at Watches and Wonders, you look at a brand like ours, like we're more on the entry level side than some of the others. So it's like
Yeah.
it's this weird dichotomy of um, just of the way brands interact. But yeah,
Well, I think
but
that's what's special about the brand,
yeah,
how you guys can toe that line between entry
yeah,
level enthusiasm,
Yeah.
approachable price point, but also aspirational. It is an interesting spot, I think.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And I've always believed in wind up personally in the sense of it being there from a philosophical perspective, not just a practical perspective, but like
Hmm.
being, an independent brand,
Hmm.
being sort of like uh, the big mainstream independent brand, but still like representing that spirit and that side of it. That's why I've always felt that wind up, it supported wind up since the beginning because of those reasons, I think. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I I've always said I'm more driven by aesthetics than say like the movements, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't work on my car, but I love cars, you know?
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so I guess in a sense I'll sort of describe this as like dial side versus movement side. I feel like you guys do such a great job of storytelling on the dial side. Um, are there plans and or current executions of things that are on the movement side that you're really pushing forward, say technologically and or innovations and things that you really want to be more forward facing?
Yeah, most definitely. I think the brand, we have a lot of, as you said before, we can exist in these
Yeah.
different environments. I think from a product perspective, we have just the same because, we have really, no matter what the price spectrum of the brand, we always have this really good watch punching well above your weight at the price that you're at, right? So
Yeah.
whether that's 2,000 or $10,000, the features that are in it. But from an innovation perspective, it's movement innovation, it's case material like 3D printed carbon fiber. It's like
Yeah.
these things that we've been doing. But yeah, certainly to get back to the question about movements, obviously, we've had our own in-house movements for a bit of time. This year at Watches and Wonders, we reintroduced a bunch of caliber 113s, which are our in-house manual wind, 10-day power reserve, day date, you know, business calendar, complications. So really complicated watches.
Yeah.
Um, but again, for reasonable price points given the functionality that you find. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, that's great. I feel like the community at large, if I could speak for my part of the contribution to
yeah,
the world at large of watches, is I don't think that's talked about enough. I think for Oris, I feel like a lot of it is, Pro Pilot or like
yeah,
titanium and things like that. Like we're not talking about Oris movements, and I think we should be,
right.
I mean, 10
Thank
day
you.
power reserve, like
Yeah.
I don't own a watch with that kind of power reserve, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's people like yourself that know watches well and know the kind of the value, even the value of that, or like
Yeah.
the what it takes to make something like that. I think
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
what not everybody knows that. So I think that's what sometimes we have trouble getting out there, or people realizing that, or as with any brand, people will say, oh, you know why should I buy an Oris, a $10,000 Oris? I'll buy something else, right? I'll buy whatever, whatever. But the point is you're not getting the whatever, whatever at that level for that price point.
No,
So
and sometimes you're getting the opposite.
yeah,
Like you're
yes,
getting a three thousand
yeah,
dollar watch movement and a $12,000 watch
right, right.
because
Yeah,
of XYZ other advertising that may
yeah,
or may not
name
be
and
done. Yeah.
things like that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, yeah. We feel like we have the good problem, or the problem of, you know, having good product that not everybody knows,
Right.
or a brand name that not everybody knows. Whereas, I'd rather have that than the flip side where you have bad products but a brand name that everybody knows, kind
Sure.
of thing,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know. I think that's sort of, I don't know. When I think of VJ Geronimo, I also think of integrity and I think
thank you.
of
Yeah,
things like that, that I appreciate that like that's like one thing my dad like really instilled in me, especially from a business perspective, is having a lot of integrity. And when you say you're going to do something, do it. And if you don't, you better A, have a good reason why, or B, come with an apology and reschedule or retext or recall that,
yeah,
Um, and I feel like that's kind of Oris. And that's I don't know, maybe subconsciously, partially why you've been there for so long, right? Is
Yeah,
the
I
the
mean,
values, you know?
yeah, and I mean, I think it's something that, and that's not just me, like that's the values of the people.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think about Rolf Studer, I think about Ulrich, I think about the people, like we all carry that. And I think, I guess that is the beauty of the company, is that we get to be ourselves in that world and
Hmm.
very much identify with those things. So yeah, that's probably
Yeah,
why, you know,
yeah.
just you're passionate about it from multiple aspects of it. So,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, I think most corporate businesses setups top down, kind of
yeah,
culture. The corporate
yeah,
culture is very often top down. And
yeah,
I guess if those in your shoes, in your chair, and Rolf and the like are that birds of a feather,
yeah,
then it's just going to trickle down and create this piazza-like presentation versus the Heisman.
yeah,
And I think that's awesome. Yeah, yeah, totally.
yeah,
That's awesome. I love it.
yeah.
Okay, so when you're at wind up and stuff, again, going back to I forgot to ask this earlier, when thinking about like the lifetime or not lifetime value of spend, but like the what was the term I used? The purchasing cycle. Um is there follow-up that can be done or is done or not done? Or like how do you guys handle that when
In
in
terms of
terms of those
customers,
who aren't buying now but might want to in the future? Is there any sort of funnel
yeah,
or
I mean, I think there's a little bit of a funnel. I think there's, people that have come and say that. I wouldn't say, um, in terms of gathering people's
Mhm.
names. I think, we usually retail through wind up shops. So maybe if somebody's interested in something, like they'll, they'll take somebody's name, or they'll
I see.
take that as kind of the next step to that. We, of course, will, we gather information and certainly do that, but in terms of like the specific, like, hey, I like this watch, and
Mhm.
maybe in 6 months I'm going to get it. But yeah, do I think we could do more of that? Yes. I
Mm.
think we could do more of that, and more like, um, just more like follow up from the perspective of, you know, I like this specific watch, and then, 6 months from now, maybe they get an email and say, hey, remember that watch, or whatever that
Yeah.
is, and,
Yeah.
are you interested, kind of thing. Yeah.
I guess just part of the reason I asked that is because I got the Heisman from Bulgari. I went into their
Mhm.
store at South Coast Plaza a couple days ago to try on that 37 millimeter
Yeah.
octo that they released just because I wanted to see what it looked like on my wrist.
Yeah.
And I got a text this morning from that sales
Really.
representative, and she was like, "Hey, just following up." And she sent me a link to the watch, and it was like, "Hey, I just
Nice.
wanted to check in and see if you had any additional questions or if there's anything I can help with." Now, granted, you can't do that probably for everybody, right? And maybe
Yeah.
you can, maybe you can't, but like that was her job because she talked to
Yeah.
me. But
Yeah.
it's those kinds of things that really do.
Smart.
I don't
I
know.
mean,
It keeps the brand on the top of my mind, first and
yep.
foremost, and it makes me feel like I'm being taken care of.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's so rare. Customer service at large
Hmm.
is so rare these days. Even in some of these luxury stores. Like a lot of
Yeah.
times, if they sense that you're not buying something, they just may not even bother helping you. Or
Yeah.
you go into Nordstrom sometimes and like it's one of two things. You either get great customer service or none at all.
Yeah.
And it's because it's like they just want to be a cashier, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
that's, and that's, and I think that's with good salespeople, or just good service people, like that's
mhm.
what's your attitude towards it, right? How do you
Yeah.
treat it? But obviously, in a place like that, that's great that it kind of keeps you interested, and they
Hmm.
hear from you, and you also don't want it to be too intrusive to you, but also just keep
Right.
that fine balance of what that is. Did you tell her you got the Heisman at the booth?
Yeah. I think I did in person. I didn't over text this morning, but yes, I think I told her that
Yeah,
in person. I said,
yeah,
unfortunately, I couldn't get in the booth because I didn't have an appointment, which
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe that's also their way of saying, well, if you were important and or valuable, you would have had an appointment. Like, I don't know. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess it cuts both ways again,
yeah.
But
Really, right?
We can't wrap this up without talking about baseball. So, how are we feeling about our Yankees?
I mean, so far, I think we're feeling really good about them. I
Yeah.
think, I think it's baseball. It's a long season though.
Yeah.
It's 162 games. What are they, like 27, 28 games in? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's good. But it's always um it's just nice when it's baseball season, I think.
I agree.
Just in general, like it's a good like the
The weather's
rejuvenation.
better.
Yeah, it's just a rejuvenation of things. Spring, it's all those
Right.
things. And
Right.
and it's um you become attached to the people. I think you become attached to, and being fortunate in my case of knowing some of these people, and like you want them to be successful, like
Yeah.
Aaron Boone, like I want him to win, like I so badly just want him to win for him,
For
like
him. Yeah.
for him,
Yeah.
like not just even for being a lifelong Yankee fan. I just want him to win.
Yeah.
So how do you feel? What are
I
you
feel
feeling
great.
about
I
it?
mean, I'd like to echo that sentiment just in general. Like I live in San Diego, obviously. So like my home
Yeah.
team is not the Yankees,
Yes.
um but even as a Yankee fan, I can be happy because they are coming to the ballpark this year. So
Yes. Yes, they
so
are.
so
Yes, they
that's
are.
that's exciting. But yeah, no, I feel great. And I think a hot dog and a beer, it just doesn't get better sitting in a chair.
Mhm.
So we're
Yeah.
going to be taking Kaya to the games, this year.
Yeah. That's
So
what that's
it's
awesome.
yeah, we've got a couple slated already, and well, I I can't wait to see how she reacts because
Yeah.
it's not like being on an airplane where you're trapped in your chair for five
Right.
hours going to
Right.
Hawaii or somewhere, but like you
So
could be there
she,
for more than 20 minutes, hopefully.
yeah, she might just run away.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
at least,
So
yeah.
so we'll
Or
see.
really, well, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about, how do you feel about the ABS challenge?
What uh, I don't know. I don't know.
No?
I don't jury's out for me.
Yeah.
What are
Yeah.
you saying?
I love it actually. I think it's very exciting. I think
Yeah.
it's very like, because it's very quick, like it just comes up and it's like, okay, batter challenges, pitcher, whatever it is, two
Yeah,
seconds later, you get an answer and it's done and it moves
that's
on,
true.
right? So I think that's cool. I think the dynamic of the umpires and the managers and like the chirping between them about balls and strikes, I mean, I think it kind of like puts a little bit to rest, you
Yes.
know. So, but it's funny, like it's funny to watch.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting old, but I do kind of like the human component of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I kind of want it, even if he doesn't get it right, the umpire, right?
yeah,
The mistakes are but also it's like, well, it could be the difference. One strike could be the difference
yeah,
in the result of the game.
yeah, yeah,
So then you got to pick and choose when to use it for that
yep,
reason. But
yep,
I don't know. Does it add complication while is it addition by subtraction by subtracting the human
yeah.
element, or is it I don't know. That's why I'm kind of conflicted. I like it, but I also don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like it. I I wouldn't like to see just automated umpires. Like I think that would be
Right, right. It's
like
a
that would
slippery
be
slope.
that would be bad. Like to
Yeah,
me, that would be bad. But this
yeah.
is a nice, it seems like a nice
Gray area.
yeah, medium between the two. And you're not totally taking the human element out of it, but you're
Yeah,
also like, somebody that blatantly makes a really bad call that could make the difference between a game or whatever it
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
But then like you find some of these players like like a couple of them are like they just challenge because it's almost out of arrogance. Like, like
It
they're
couldn't
they're
possibly
wrong.
be a
It
ball.
couldn't
Like,
yeah, like of course it's a ball. Like what do you mean? I took a strike. So that's a little bit, that annoys me a little bit when I see that happen. But
yeah, yeah.
it's just it's funny. It's funny. And I wonder, like, you wonder what the backstory going on among the people is, like, are they telling you like you can't challenge anymore and you can't, you're not
Right. Yeah,
allowed to
in the
challenge, you're not allowed,
clubhouse. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you're not allowed to do
Don't
this.
ever do this again.
Yeah, we were talking about it this morning for some reason, and I heard they were saying like I think with the Yankees, they like every time someone gets a challenge wrong, they put $1,000 into something because
Oh,
like
that's nice.
yeah, something
It's like
like
the
that,
swear
right?
jar.
Yeah, like the swear jar, right? Exactly.
It's like, okay,
So
great, but at
yeah,
the end of the season, they're gonna just have like an
yeah.
incredible dinner or
Either
something.
that or maybe it's a charitable thing, which would be pretty
Yeah,
awesome. That would
that
be
would be
pretty
even
cool,
better.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's just funny. But yeah.
Um, Forgive me. What's the up? Is there a Clemente thing going on with
Um,
the watches
in terms of
models
um there
variations?
there's not a Clemente. There may be something else in that department.
Okay.
In the next I'm not
Hence
sure
the
when this
forgive me.
I'm not sure when this is airing, but there
Okay.
may be something else in that department. So
Okay.
yes, in the near future,
TBD.
TBD. So yeah, we're
Sweet.
excited about that. So we'll see. And then yeah, the Clemente thing, just obviously the award winners are still getting their Clementes for the next few years. So that's pretty cool.
Awesome.
So we're excited about that. Yeah.
Sweet.
So yeah,
VJ, thank
definitely.
you for your time, buddy. It's great to
Wes,
talk to you.
always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure. Really enjoy speaking with you. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course. No,
And
thank you for the opportunity.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and obviously your first one as a new dad. So
that's right.
first one together as a new dad. So that's
That's
great.
right. Thank you,
So
sir. Well,
all right.
we'll catch up soon. And yeah, I don't know if I will see you on this coast or New York, me over
Yeah,
there. I don't know
we'll
which
see.
will come first, but
Yes.
we'll figure it
Well,
out.
all right. Sounds
All
good.
right. Say hi to
So
Josh for me.
yes, I will. All
Okay,
right.
buddy.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See ya.
All right. Take care.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.